Hello, everybody. I'm back. Let's have a little drink together. Talk about books and tarot. Cheers. So I'll be sipping red wine during the entirety of this video. I don't know how long it'll be, but I'm excited to film. It's at the end of a busy workday, so I am really tired, but I've been thinking about this idea for a video and I'm excited about it, so I want to just jump back into, making videos and posting them online. So first of all, I want to say Happy New Year, if that's still okay to say. Hope you all had a wonderful end of last year, beginning of 2022. Today, I am diving deep and doing something different right off the bat. I thought it would be fun to actually go through all the books that I read last year, so in 2021, give a little bit of my ideas on them if I feel I have the time to do so. And being the tarot reader that I am, I'm going to pull a card for every book that I read. I'm using the good old Rider Waite Smith because that feels right for this task. So I thought of this the other day, and frankly, I am curious to see how the card that I pull relates to the lesson or the theme or the message of that particular book, the book in question. Basically, this is what a tarot reader does when they just want to play with cards. So let's see what comes up and what it tells me. Somehow, a year ago, I got FOMO realizing that I had never read the Twilight Saga. Don't click away. This will be brief. So I am not exactly starting with high literature because going into 2021, I felt a strange pull that I have felt before in the past towards vampire stories. And it's kind of strange though. I don't really recognize why I did this, but out of all the vampire stories that I could have picked, I went for the Twilight books. I'm admitting it right here. I didn't even buy them, I just found the PDF online for free. Honestly, Bella in the book isn't as sluggish and lethargic as she seems to be in the movies, but she's still very helpless, and it's kind of annoying. Anyway, let's see what card comes up. I'm pulling a card for the entire series, just to get it over with. I actually read some good books last year, and it's PDF form, so I can't even show you the cover of the book. Anyway, one card for the 4 books. Was it 4 books? I believe so. Let's see what comes up. 8 of Cups. Well, this obviously means stay away from these types of stories. No, look, the message here, I think that, it's okay to sometimes just be in the mood to absorb something that I don't feel is very intellectually high. Oh, that was great. I have a way with words. Don't you agree? Again, like I'm not a native English speaker. I feel like I say that often but even in Dutch or in French, I always struggle to find my words. But anyway, 8 of Cups for the Twilight Saga, I think, yeah, it is about a little bit that idea of what I feel a book should give me, like obviously reading for pleasure and nothing else, just for pleasure, just as a mode of entertainment, just like, I have the worst taste in movies sometimes I feel because I watch them for pure entertainment, like mind-numbingly, just watch the pretty pictures move. Sometimes that's also okay for books. So that's not what I get out of the 8 of Cups. Then I also think I just had to get this out of my system, and it doesn't mean I will never revisit these types of romance stories that I don't feel I really got a lot from, but sometimes it's okay to just pass the time. And honestly, I feel like reading those 4 books back to back in January 2021 got me into this mode of reading, because I was already reading. I always read something. But I do go through periods of time where I don't read, where I'm in between books, or I didn't finish the last one. I feel guilty about it, and so I don't want to start a new one. I definitely almost completely got over that last year. But it's not about finishing a book. That's not the achievement here, I feel. The achievement itself is reading itself and just getting joy out of it and passing the time, having fun. Doesn't really matter what type of book it is, what type of story it is. Obviously, I do prefer something where I get a lesson out of it, and I don't feel these books really gave me that all that much, except that awkwardness is somehow charming. To sum up, those 4 books at the beginning of 2021, I feel, got me in a rhythm of reading that I appreciated for the rest of the year. So there. I'm going to put this card aside so we don't get repeat cards. Is that smart? Yeah, I think so. These are my books. This is how I think about it. These are my books. I think I read 15 books last year. And so it's a reading about those 15 books. So I can safely put the 8 of Cups aside for the Twilight Saga. The second book, finally, some literature. I don't actually have the book here because my partner is not reading it currently, but has it in his home. And I think he did, get the gist of it. It's Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, because it was 2021, and so I had to. It's a very slow-paced story. It's great. It's unfortunately timeless. Beautiful story, beautifully written, very slow though, not a lot of momentum or action. Also painful, obviously, for the people who read it. The story very much highlights our current forms of soma. Apart from the obvious things that are very close to soma, which is the type of drug in the book and the type of drug that makes you experience things. I don't want to spoil too much for people who haven't read these books, but apart from the things that are directly related to soma, alcohol, drugs, unhealthy foods, whatever, I do quickly want to add that I'm not saying this with judgment. I'm saying this without judgment. This is just all these things, I guess, are part of daily modern life, right? And distractions can be very nice. It's just that it's not the whole of life. Other things that I thought of reading this book, like, or actually looking back to what I got from this story, at this point in time, people are actually willingly getting chipped. They get a microchip inserted in their hand, like between the index finger and the thumb, implanted into their hand, to make things easier. Then obviously we have Netflix and all of those other subscriptions, very much like Soma. We have Infinite Scroll, we have Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, Metaverse. Oh my God. I want to include this into my first video of the year. I regret saying in a video that I will link of last year that I would like to see a virtual reality tarot deck happen. I take that back. I don't want that. I don't want it. I prefer all the other ideas. Yeah, those were my thoughts on Huxley and Brave New World. You should read it. Let's see. Wow, King of Swords, Heir of Air. The truth cuts the deepest, I guess. Or maybe the first cut is the deepest. This is absolute information that is being fed to you through a novel. So it's supposed to be a made-up story, and it is, except that it isn't. Except that there's just so much overlap in our modern contemporary society that this is definitely a book that I will not easily forget. Um, you can forget about happy endings in these types of books. It's very poetic and it's beautiful, but it's also a very stern, strict message. Like all of these things that I listed, like what we have as soma these days, as the type of drug that keeps us distracted and away from reality, from things that actually are important, I also do. I also, to a certain extent, participate in. I also drink alcohol. I also watch YouTube way too much. I even thought that a virtual reality tarot deck was a good idea at some point. Whereas I also realized this is not me. This is not what I find important or what I feel. I don't get any value out of these types of things. It's just distractions, as I said. It's just the confetti. It's just the details of life. This book confronts us with what is truly important, looks us straight in the eye, gives us a little bit of a slap in the face, like, hey, you've been sleeping, wake up. So there. Obviously, I could keep going with any of these cards, but I want to kind of keep it a little bit short. Finally, I have a book to show you. Visual Magic by Jan Vries. This is a very Dutch name. I don't even know if this is a Dutch author, because this is one of my flaws when reading books. I almost never research or look up the author. Anyway, this is a book about magic with a K at the end, a manual of freestyle shamanism. This is a classic, and I particularly wanted this edition, the old edition. I'm not even sure if I remember correctly if there's a new edition, but I knew that I wanted this one because I don't know, it felt right. There's a lot about sigil magic in here. It really goes into the direction of chaos magic, but it's very, very close to nature, and there are just beautiful, all of these books, all of these classics, especially the chaos magic things, have these types of hand-drawn black and white, kind of weird, but amazing illustrations in them, don't they? And one of the things that I remember of this book is I will reread it, definitely. It's worth the read and it's worth the study, is the way of visualization. Because visualizing, obviously, that is a word where we think of the eyes, sight, we visualize, except that the author explained in a very inspirational way. It wasn't anything that I hadn't heard before or didn't know or didn't already do, but the way he explained it was really nice. He said, if you feel like a meditation isn't working, or an astral projection or anything like that, path working isn't working because you focus on the visual, try to use and open up your other senses, because that is so strong, so magical. And why do we keep forgetting about these other senses? We have the smell of things, the perfume of things, that is amazing to recall things. And we have the taste, and we have the hear, and we have touch, all of those senses. There's just so much that we can do with that. And that is how any astral plane, any astral place becomes reality, because you can fully immerse yourself into it, because it is also fully there. It's not just a pretty picture on the screen. It's actually 3D. It's actually 360 degrees around you. It's actually something that you can touch and feel and smell, etc. So that's why I love this book. Where do I keep this? Here. Let's pull a card for it. See what the tarot says. I mean, you can see I got excited about this one, and there's already some stuff I forgot. I will go back over it because it's a classic for a reason, definitely. Six of Swords. I love this. First of all, in the Rider Waite Smith, it is about moving away, kind of like the Eight of Cups, right? Six of Swords is about moving away from something that felt a little bit chaotic to something new, a new calm shore where we can build up again. So basically, I feel like this was a big step for me to get into these types of books or get into this particular book because it showed me not just that I care about what edition I have in my hands sometimes, and I care about going back to the original source. You know, I could have gotten a new book that was published 2 years ago that handles the exact same themes, but no, I needed to go old school. That actually makes a big difference to me. So that step did show me, you know, I learned something about myself, I guess. Um, and it does show that once I am at this shore, that is where I can continue this learning process. Now, the other thing that I think about with the Six of Swords, well, many things, but what came to mind is the six is such a good, balanced, centered number, centered energy. And the swords, obviously, is such high, fast energy. It's about the mind and learning and communication and everything, the thinking, what happens in the mind, that together that makes such a joy for learning, the joy of knowledge. I always like that. I always like that so much. When I see this card or when I get the Thoth Six of Swords, which is called Lord of Science, it shows a type of, I appreciate this knowledge and I'm gonna do something really cool with it. So yeah, right on the nose with this card for this book. The next one is Libra Chaos, another classic one. I finally read it front to back because the beginning of this book is like math class, and I I don't understand numbers. I understand the symbolic meaning of numbers. I don't understand numbers themselves. So this is obviously by Peter J. Carroll. I loved the parts that came after the first chapter. What do I say about this? Look, this is what I mean. See? Yeah, so I enjoyed revisiting the Chaos Star, and especially, this is good, especially the colors of magic and how Peter explains this, because I realized that this octarine color that he talks about, which isn't a color at all, I believe, is assigned to pure magic. Because here with the Chaos Star, we have black, which is for death magic, blue, wealth magic, orange, thinking magic, etc. But then octarine on top, pure magic. And I felt somehow validated in a sense because I work with, what is it even called? Black light? I work with ultraviolet. Like it's not even represented in the rainbow, in the color scales. But that is a color, obviously, I think, initiated by the paradoxical version of the Triomphe della Luna, which is my favorite deck. And I have a black light because of that, and everything glows, and therefore the entire astral world that came in through that deck that I, thought up in my mind, everything is glowing and everything is bluish and purple and everything is ultraviolet black light type light. It's supposed to represent the underworld to me. So everything's very dark yet extremely bright. So paradoxical in itself. So this, yeah, I don't know, just read it. It's very interesting. Obviously, I like chaos magic. It's really, yeah, a jumping off point, starting off point for me in my own practice. And don't worry about the first chapter, just read through it. If you have read any other books about magic, especially chaos magic, you'll understand bits of it, and then from the second chapter on, it will be a nicer read. So let's see what comes up. Definitely a book I will revisit again. Seven of Wands. I like this. I like this because it's kind of spicy, it's kind of fiery, and it's very quick and outgoing, but it also kind of makes you question your own practice, because I am not a chaos magician. I just do my own thing. Sometimes I think I'm nothing. I don't even, it's just I do my own thing, and that's good enough for me. And this is a kind of validation that I need to give myself, which is very Seven of Wands like. And I'm just going to leave it at that for this book. There you go. Dream Hunters of Corsica, yes, by Dorothy Carrington, a Brit lady. This book was recommended to me by our very own Mary Grace. Mary Grace, if you're watching, thank you again, because I loved it. I recognized so much from my own culture in this book, and I also learned a lot about the traditions and history and culture and magical traditions of this island that is part of my heritage, that's in my blood. Once a Corsican, always a Corsican. I don't know what I meant by that, but I mean, I know that it's a beautiful island that I love to visit. Once you're in love with Corsica, I guess you'll never fall out of love with it, truly. It's very old, there's lots of stone, it's beautiful landscape, beautiful nature, and also the culture is beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. The people on this island have their own mentality, their own values, their own beliefs, traditions, as I said, history, and just simply way of living. It's obviously secluded because it's surrounded by ocean, and I don't know, I loved learning about basically other regions than the one that I'm from, because yeah, there's a lot of stuff I had no idea about, and it's great that there's this belief. I don't know how to say this. Like, it's a collective, you could even say myth. Yeah, collective myth. But because there are still some people who truly believe in it, this story just stays alive. And this type of magic, mouth to mouth, generation through generation, energy exchange is very much prevalent on Corsica. So yeah, loved it very much. I can recommend it if you're interested in magic, traditions, folk magic, and Corsica. So what I wanted to add before I pull a card, Dorothy Carrington is an English lady, and I couldn't have imagined a better, I guess, home for the author, apart from Corsica itself, obviously, than England. England is a close second, I guess. I don't know. I always feel, my mother agrees, that there's something similar between England and Corsica somehow. I might get totally roasted in the comments for this, but it's just the beautiful landscapes, it's the old traditions, it's the history. Obviously, there's a lot of different traditions, but still, like, there's some overlap there. Anyway, let's pick a card. Ooh, wow, the Chariot. The Chariot. I like this because the Chariot is, well, that's not really applicable for last year, though. I was going to say the Chariot is my card of the year. So it does kind of imply from this book on, I can do more with my heritage, I guess, with where I'm from. But let's look at it a little bit more analytically. I do like it. I do like it because of many reasons, but the thing that comes to mind now is that this is so much about going inwards and going back in time, and to learn about what my ancestors did. And it's still alive to this day, but not a lot of people talk about it. But still, it's it's these types of things obviously interests me, these type of folk magic, especially from where I'm from, and it's not boring at all, you know. There's a lot to learn and a lot to find out. It's great. It's like a treasure hunt. Treasure hunt or dream hunt? And also, actually, even before reading the book itself, um, the whole reason that I got to read this book is because it was recommended by someone, Mary Grace, who saw my video, a random video of mine, in which I mentioned that I am not just half French, but actually Corsican. Like that, being a little bit more candid, a little bit more open on the internet, even though I am really trying to, at the same time, stay private, just a smart thing to do, to not say everything online. But I shouldn't be so afraid or that hesitant as I have been to just talk a little bit and relax, because this was an amazing recommendation, and I wouldn't have gotten it had I not said that I'm from Corsica. So that does open up something special. Next one. Oh yeah, Rebel Witch by our very own Kellyanne Maddox. I had to. I actually did a review on this book last year. It was a strange review. I think at that time I was sick or something. But I did enjoy this book. This is another book that I will reference a lot, because the thing I appreciate about this one is, first of all, I am a Kellyanne Maddox fan. Kellyanne, if you're watching, hi. But also I appreciate it because it's very personal practice, and it's very validating towards whatever your practice is. It's a book of ideas, so many possibilities in what you consider to be magical practice, witch practice, whatever, and you do it your way. I love that, and it's a very modern take on it. There are a lot of modern, contemporary ideas in this book. So let's pick a card. Death. Death for Rebel Witch. How cool is that, isn't it? Yes, I see that. Arcanum 13, definitely. Transformation and change. I wouldn't say that in the moment of reading it, it really changed a lot for me. But as I keep doing my practice, as I keep going through whatever I personally do and share with you on Patreon a little bit, because I like to do that, yes, it did leave its mark. So as I revisit this book, definitely I will see that this book had much more impact on my practice, and even just the way I think of any type of spiritual practice or spiritual mindset, what that can be, what that looks like, how that manifests. Yeah. I like that this is Rebel Witch, and then we get death like stomping through this battlefield. Ah, it's so good. It's like, forget everything you ever heard. Now you are the one in charge. Put on the crown that you made yourself and rule over your own kingdom, for crying out loud. Why are you following these rules? Stop following the rules. Go ahead and let those rules die in a ditch over there, and you become death and then get reborn, obviously. I might get some darker teeth from that red wine. I guess it's okay because I'm already purple from this light. Anyway, at this point I was in France, and I got this book from my grandparents. Le Tarot Initiatique by Hélène Huck. I guess it's pronounced. I call it Le Tarot Initiatique, but I think that's the name of the deck that came out with these illustrations a year later. I actually saw it last Christmas when I gave you my heart. I actually saw it last Christmas in the Fnac, which is this big chain store that sells CDs, well, everything music and books and comic books, everything related to it. And then also now tarot decks, lots of tarot and oracle decks. None of them I want, but shout out to the Frenchies over there. I know what you're going through. Like, whatever decks you find in stores, those are the ones, those aren't the ones you want. You want the ones that we find online, right? Usually, right? I don't know. That's how I feel. Anyway, I was intrigued by this cover because the art is beautiful, because we see many different archetypes merged together, which is the whole deal of this book. It's obviously Tarot de Marseille style. I feel like I could just rip out a page and frame it. But I guess this is what the deck looks like. Wait, let me check. Well, look, obviously, I love this image. This is giving me so much good energy. Oh my God, Ishtar, yes. So this, okay, so the idea of this book, yeah, this is the picture I wanted to show you because the artist also put in these lines to, I don't really know why, but it's very striking. It's beautiful because obviously usually in Tarot de Marseille, it's just white backgrounds or off-white, but usually white, especially with artwork that looks this modern. You can see it's not hand-drawn or anything like that, but it's still beautiful. But then adding these black and white contrasts, it feels like, okay, we are descending, right? Because this is le diable, the devil. So I haven't finished this book actually because I wasn't inspired anymore, because I really needed to read at this point in the year, read something other than another book about tarot meanings, tarot card meanings, even if it's a Marseille, and I haven't read as much Marseille books as, for instance, Rider Waite Smith or even Thoth at this point. But the reason I will read this book, or at least flip through it and, pick it up again, is because they bring in archetypes from different cultures to represent the archetypes of the tarot. It's nothing new, but they did it in a beautiful way. They have Ishtar for the devil. It's very alchemical book. Okay, Sekhmet about strength. Gonna have to read that. Then we get the Papes, and the archetype that they talk about is Isis, Sophia, etc. You get the gist. I feel like I'm gonna pick up this book this year. Okay, another beautiful thing about it is that this author is obviously working with the person doing the illustrations, and this person also is a tattoo artist. And if I find it, I will link it below, because there's an Instagram page in which apparently the clients pay for a tarot reading with the Tarot de Marseille. I think only their majors are used, which is very common in Marseille French readings. And then, according to the cards they get and the message that they get out of it, they get a tattoo inked onto their bodies, and it's always very bold but beautiful. Let's finally pick a card for this book. So, as I said, I didn't finish the book, but something cool about it for sure. And I get strength. Strength. Okay. Maybe this is motivating me to power through, because, at this point, I obviously read Dutch fluently because I speak that all the time. At this point, I even read English more fluently than French. So this is like a big deal to go through. But yeah, I think I will get much more out of it, because it is so obviously empowering to find these archetypes from different cultures, and therefore also deity, to bring into the tarot archetypes. I actually really love doing that, because it's as if we take these collective archetypes from the tarot and we bring them into the world that was there long before the tarot even got its name. I'm ready to delve into the old ancient stuff that really is just a jolt in the body. That is just, yeah, I have been finally working with deity myself, deity, lack of a better term. But I'm not ready to talk about it. I will, but yeah. It's nice that it's this integration, this incorporation of things that are globally known, and yet we can learn from it, I guess, and we can absorb some of the greatness of the stories of the myths and the legends and all of that. A lot of majors in a row there. Condensed Chaos by Phil Hine, another classic. I gifted this book to Manuela because I really liked it. I don't remember though really what's in here. I guess I just wanted a little bit more approachable, readable book for someone who isn't a native English speaker, as I said, after having read Libra Chaos and other Peter J. Carroll books. But Peter Carroll does the foreword, and Phil Hine, it has a way of making you laugh while you learn about chaos magic. Another one I'll have to revisit. Because these kinds of magic books you can't just read once, I feel. You actually have to study it. And even though I take notes, sometimes not enough. So let's see how this goes, because I'm actually going to pull a card on a book I don't really remember a lot about. Empress. Okay, so maybe it already gave me some inspiration and to be more creative in my own practice, spiritual practice. I think maybe this book, yes, I will read it again, or flip through it again, study it a bit more, and other Phil Hine work, obviously. But the Empress is a kind of reassurance that tells me, you already picked the fruit. The tree already bore the fruit. So the creative process, meaning obviously being creative, but also creating your own world, your own practice, your own workings, that this is already set in motion. I have two audiobooks for you that I just found on YouTube. Um, as I said at the beginning of this video, I felt this pull towards reading about vampires, and so after the Twilight stuff, I decided let's go a little bit more classic cult, right? The Interview with the Vampire audiobook. I love the movie. Kirsten Dunst, freaking amazing. Can't believe she's that young. Yes, to that movie. But I never read the book. And so instead of reading it, because I couldn't find it, and I guess I was a bit broke in that during that month, I just found the audiobook and I listened to the audiobook and it was great. I listened to this book, when was this? I don't know. Like maybe September, August, September. Anne Rice, the writer, died in December 2021. And yeah, I guess I'm just somehow glad that I got to enjoy this while she was still among us. So, one card for Interview with the Vampire audiobook. Four of Wands. Yeah, you see, after all of that studying, I finally felt ready to delve into some fantasy again. Honestly, for me, the main thing I got out of reading that book was that I kind of went back to my childhood. It's not like I ever read, if I remember correctly, Anne Rice before last year. I was aware of her work, I watched the movies, but as a kid, I only wanted to read thriller stories like scary stories. Vampires were a must, werewolves, sure, but vampires were number one. And I think I kind of just wanted to see other material that I hadn't read yet, but with the same idea. And that itself was very Rider Waite Smith interpretation of the Four of Wands, a very happy moment. Yeah, a celebration in time for me to revisit this in a sense and really rejoice in this fantasy world, because it's an incredible world that she made with all the vampire laws and all of that, and how they become vampires. And I don't even want to call it a guilty pleasure because it's cult status, right? And it has been since before I was born. Is that true? I think so. Yeah, it must have started in the 80s, early 80s. Maybe before. I have no idea. See, this is what I mean. Like I don't I don't check authors. But yeah, the story itself was nice. I got it. It was really cool. The experience of reading the book was very Four of Wands, was very anything is possible. This is the point where this world is, forming in front of my eyes or my ears. And from that point, it just keeps growing and evolving. And I like that creativity aspect of it. The book after that was also an audiobook, The Vampire Lestat, because I thought, all right, now I'll read up on Lestat, but also Anne Rice, obviously. But I didn't finish it because, honestly, this is probably an unpopular opinion, but Lestat was the least interesting character of that book, of Interview with the Vampire, for me. I much preferred reading or hearing about Louis, who actually kept his soul in a sense, or even, I forgot her name, the little girl. Lestat doesn't struggle with killing people for food, and now the entire book is based around his experience, and it was kind of set in the 80s. I don't know. I don't know. I guess I just preferred the Victorian times. Was it Victorian? Probably way before. I don't know. But yeah, just didn't have the same charm as Interview with the Vampire. Let's see. Anyway, yeah, Wheel of Fortune. All right, so change. Change, change, change. Maybe I should just give it a go once more, because sometimes this is what I do. When I find one particular quality extremely interesting and extremely gripping, I get kind of addicted to it, and that's like all I want to be in. I want to be in that mindset and atmosphere all the time. And then when I pick up something or encounter something that I need to work on that is completely different, that changes up things, I get annoyed because it's not what I want. And yeah, I think this card is telling me, give it a chance. All right. I kept going with the novels, like with the fantasy stories, because I read, again, these movies came out when I was a kid, and we were all obsessed with them. I mean, Aragorn. I finally read these books. The Fellowship of the Ring, I actually found in one of those bookcases with free books in Amsterdam, next to my home, this really cool Tolkien, what's it called? Like, pack, I guess. I totally skipped The Hobbit. I'll read it one day. I just wanted to read the trilogy. Completely new. And all of these books were published in 60 something. Yeah, copyright 1950. That's what I mean with numbers. I can't do numbers. 1965. And then I think this edition was in 1973. Now, the cute thing about these paperbacks is that on the last page, it says, to order by mail, send $1.25 per book plus 25 cents per order for handling to Ballantine Cash Sales, P.O. Box, blah, blah, blah. Please allow 3 weeks for delivery in case you just bought this book in a store and you wanted to order the next book. Isn't that cute? I love that. I love this. I don't know. I just love this. I enjoyed this so much and actually learned a lot, funnily enough, because now a particular card of Morgan's Tarot makes sense because I know where the quote came from. I read The Two Towers this year, and The Return of the King will just have to wait its turn. Yeah, so by Tolkien, amazing that this guy, channeled, as Lennon said in a talk that I had with her, channeled this entire world and wrote it all down. Can't say I loved every part of this book because at times it's also very slow. I took some time to finish this book. Like it's I think a tradition. Like maybe Return of the King will be different, but Two Towers also was this way. I read up until like the last 3 chapters that I still have to read. Then it gets boring and I don't pick up the book for a good week and a half until finally I pick up the book and finish it in one go because I feel I have to finish the story. But that's just pacing thing. Anyway, I did appreciate this book. I liked it. And it's just like a bucket thing kind of thing because I know the movies. Yes, I actually saw all of them in theaters. But I never read the books, and now I did. And in English, original language, and for free. I mean, I don't really care, but I love this edition. Oh, 5 of Swords. Interesting. Okay. It does, in a sense, represent the story, right? Because this peaceful world is getting some serious war and storm and dark times. Like the light is actually fading away. But it's about not losing sight of why this is necessary to do this ordeal. So it's a weight on one's shoulders, but you can carry this weight with pride and in style. I did like it. I think I would have liked these books had I not seen the movies as well. Okay, Phyllis Seckler, I got it. Yes, the Thoth Tarot, Astrology, and Other Selected Writings. I absolutely loved the part about the elements, about the cards, about the Tree of Life, etc. It's all stuff I kind of knew, but she has a wonderful time, maybe she had a wonderful time, hopefully. It shines through. But she had a wonderful way of explaining it, kind of poetic actually, highlighted a lot of this book. Didn't finish it because the end was full on astrology, and I guess I'm not there yet. Let's pick a card. Definitely don't regret reading that book. Yeah, it's nice. Really nice. Obviously, it focuses on the Thoth Tarot. It's a complicated book, but the Thoth Tarot is a complicated deck. So yeah, I did enjoy it. 9 of Pentacles. Yeah, I mean, I must admit, I asked for this book for my birthday from my partner, and I got it, but it wasn't a cheap book. I think now the book might be out of print or ridiculously priced, like way more than what we found it for. Still, initially it wasn't like a cheap little book. And it's not the go-to book to learn about the Thoth deck or to learn about tarot, but I wanted it because it looked exclusive. And this card kind of emphasizes and tells me that that is okay. I can sometimes ask for exclusive gifts and get into this little rabbit hole rather than dive into the information that's available to everyone. I really liked this particular luxurious practical information. Yeah. Next one is another one that I unfortunately don't have with me here because, again, my partner's reading it. It's another 2020, 2021, 2022, maybe etc., maybe not. Must read 1984 by George Orwell. Okay, look. Brave New World, must read. 1984, also must read, but it's much more fast pace. It's an easier read. It's more fun to read. It's more entertaining. There's just much more excitement in the book. More is happening in smaller amount of time. And we really get to know the characters and feel for the characters and then still understand how they got to this point. No spoilers on my channel. But I mean, I had to read this in 2021 for obvious reasons. This is obviously the book that represents the time that we currently live in. You know, it's not about fear reading this book, it's just information in novel form. How amazing is that? We talk about, oh, this is so Orwellian, these times that we live in. You know, George Orwell got things right in this book. The only thing that he didn't get right, without being overly dramatic, was the telescreens, because the telescreens are actually much worse. They are our smartphones that we willingly carry everywhere in our pockets and look at maybe like 50 times a day. So, very cautionary tale, but also it just brings this wonderful message of always question everything. Be informed, you know, as much as possible, and be aware of how untrustworthy the government can be. I think I wanted to say truly is, but let's just stay open for interpretation. I don't even know what the hell I'm saying. Let's shuffle cards. Let's see what we get. Oh, the Fool! I don't know why that made me laugh so much, but okay, guys, read this book, okay? We will all become fools once more, but at least we'll be aware of where we place our feet this time around. The Fool is a higher consciousness, a higher plane, and it's a type of intoxication again. How are we going to change our lives for the better if we are not aware? This encompasses so much. Don't just be critical towards others. Be critical towards oneself, because there's so much that we can change for the better for ourselves and the people directly around us, close to us, by just changing our ways. So there's something in there for everyone. Okay, the true message from the Fool card regarding the book 1984 for me, as I read it, is that I realized I knew why I was reading that book. I was aware of the story, where it went. I didn't know any details. I didn't know the ending. I didn't know the overall lesson of that book, the meaning of it. But this dystopia that is very closely related to the world we live in today. I don't want to talk about that too much, but it's strange. It's like trying to balance whatever's happening here, you know? Like, of course we don't want to live in a dystopia. Of course we don't want to recognize so much of our current daily lives in a story that is about a dystopia. It did also at the same time offer a form of relief, because someone in the world is aware of this and the dangers of newspeak, the thought police, the, what did I just say? The telescreens, all of these things, and just getting rid of individuality. For this book to float around in our world, I don't know, it's just very strong, and we should be empowered by it in a sense, like do something good with it. Like, it's impossible to read this book and to purely experience this story as fiction, because it's not. Last two, and then I'm done. After all of this, I felt ready to study again. So I picked up this pill, Garden of Pomegranates by Regardi, Scrying on the Tree of Life. Same-ish thing that I had with the Phyllis Seckler book. I loved it because Tree of Life stuff, and very clearly written. It's not my first Tree of Life book, as you may know. But again, didn't finish it, but I will. But it just belongs in this pile. I didn't finish it because it required scrying on the Tree of Life, like actually doing exercises, which obviously is very good because we don't want to be armchair magicians. But I just didn't feel like it. I will finish it, but the first part at least I loved. Very valuable, very valuable. And also a poetic way, in a sense, of writing. So, nice job. Well done. Five of Cups. Okay. Let me think. I think I wanted to love this book and get much more out of it than I actually did. But it's not a total loss. I know this. The Five of Cups is more about my concentration, because I thought I could get through this huge book with all the little details and all the weird, rabbit holes, but then I didn't. I guess that's what I see in here. I just want to finish this video at this point. Hey, feel free to do a VR. Last book, because it was Christmas and I went to France and it was great. I had a great time with family. It was truly one of the best Christmases I ever had. I think we were all so ready to see each other, right? And to be just in each other's presence, that I felt like bringing a book that I could read during my stay and on the train, because we take the Thalys, that I already knew and knew that I loved, and also made me feel nostalgic in a way. It's the Harry Potter 7th book, so the last book. This is a Dutch version. I read these books as a kid as they came out. So I think I read this book for the first time when I was a teenager. This is the Relieken van de Dood, which is the Deathly Hallows, the last book. So I know the story so well. I wasn't hesitant to start the story in the 7th book, beginning of the 7th book. I got through it. It was great. I just enjoyed it so much. And yeah, I don't know. Who else reads children's books, especially the ones that you knew you loved so much? It's like, I feel like I have everything, like vampires, Lord of the Rings trilogy, and then Harry Potter. Yeah, it's a world of magic again, and I do like fantasy. Harry Potter, oh yeah, I absolutely loved it. Loved it, and still do to this day. Yeah, it's just a part of my childhood, and do not regret growing up with these stories. Ace of Swords. Ain't that the truth? I think it's nice because this book changed my perception of myself, of what I needed to read. Like, I don't have to push myself so much to read new material all the time. I can go back and read a book countless times if that's what I feel like doing, because the accomplishment itself is, again, the reading itself. It's not necessarily, okay, I can scratch that book off my list. It is a little bit, but it's not just learning and getting new things or studying rather, because out of every single book, except if it's a crappy one, like a B movie, terrible book that isn't my style or anything I'm remotely interested in, I will learn something from that I actually can incorporate into everyday life, or tarot study, tarot readings. We learn from every book. It doesn't have to be a book that is about the study of tarot. I can read Harry Potter and learn about the Ace of Swords, for instance. Y'all who haven't read Harry Potter, you just don't know, okay? You don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you're missing, is what I would say. Obviously, I was a child starting these books, but they still, yeah, I still love that story. And I was hooked after reading the first sentence of the first book. Just so good. Amazing world that is created, and it again just shows the possibilities. And it's okay to finish the year with the last book of a series I read, I don't know, last time maybe like 20 years ago, I don't even know, but it's okay to finish the year with a book that I already read. So that's 15 books. It's all right that they're not all finished. As I said, I don't read all the time every day, but I do know what I like to read. And sometimes, obviously, as book lovers, we take a gamble with the book. Sometimes it works out, and sometimes there's a little bit of disappointment in there. Or, as I said, we are pleasantly surprised. So yeah, books, tarot, we love them over here. I want to know what you have read in 2021. What was your most memorable book of 2021? I want to know. Let me know in the comments. So in case you don't feel like sharing that, or you haven't read anything last year, that's also a possibility. Do me a favor and leave a comment anyway with the word sparkle for the sparkly dudes amongst dangerous killers in the first vampire books that I talked about. So yeah, sparkle. Leave that in the comments before you leave so I know that you've made it this far, because this was a very long video. But it was so much fun catching up again, and I can't wait to read the comments, see what you guys have been up to. Let me know if you've enjoyed this. I like this. It was just a random idea, but there you go. Feel free to do VR, and I will see you soon. Bye.